Chris Pfeiffer of the Good Men Project. Well, Larry Hagner's not with us today, but Jay Forty of the Greatness Zone and the Ready for Life, Eric Lehman of the Game Changer Movement, and Tommy Maloney of Blending the Family. So the Modern Dad Council meets to discuss important issues around parenting, relationships, and everything else in the world as being a modern dad. Today we're going to discuss the springtime. You know, you got all kinds of different things happening this time of year. At least where I'm from, the weather's changing, so now the lawn needs to get mowed, and the kids are in different sports and activities, and you're doing more things outside. I know, Jay, you're in Florida, so you don't really have to deal with that horrible weather in the winter time, so you're probably outdoors more often than anything. But what are some things as parents that you find challenging in this time of the year that, as you get busier, that you can still stay focused on what's going on with the family and the kids and all that?
I think this is the time of year when everybody goes outside, which means all of the things that keep a family going on the inside get put on the back. So even Florida during the winter we're there, but our winter is your summer, or the other way around. Your winter is our summer. So it's too hot to be outside in the summer. So everybody has this period. We're just half a year off from you. But I think the moment it gets nice out, then everybody seems to forget that they have chores and responsibilities, and because they've been huddled around on the inside for so long, it's so good to get outside. So I think just keeping family focused on what's important, because sometimes it all gets thrown to the wind because of more and more time outside.
Yeah, that's what I found with the family, is that we're not so focused on that family time because everybody's outside doing their own thing. Kids are off playing. We're in the yard doing yard work or down at the community garden getting stuff ready there. And I do have a lot to try to involve my kids in those activities, but it's really easy to lose track. So I thought this would be a good show to kind of talk about that. Those activities that you do with your family in the summer, that having those cookouts and setting up the slip and slides, the things that I did when I was a kid that I thought were so much fun. So does anybody else have a kind of perspective or thought on this time of year?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really important to recognize is that there are seasonal mood changes in people. And at least for my boys who are 12 and 9 now, they start to just get crazy around this time. Their energy levels go up because the weather is nicer, and this is typical of most kids, particularly most boys, around this time of year. So just to be aware of that, and that they're going to need more physical activity, and that they're going to be running around more and jumping around more and climbing on things and doing stuff that they weren't doing or weren't doing as much in the colder weather is important. And I think to give them those opportunities, to try to provide outlets rather than to say, oh, tamp it down, tamp it down. They're going with the flow. They're going with the way their bodies feel. They're going with nature's clock, and I think we all feel energized at this time. And again, particularly young boys express that energy in some interesting ways.
Rambunctiousness.
Yeah.
Right. So, Tommy, what about you? Being in the Denver area, you get a lot of this?
We are getting a lot of rain. I was kidding with somebody, and I said, Noah has showed up to our house. He's going to help build us an ark. Yeah, this is I don't want to say typical Colorado weather. However, we're talking snow on Sunday. And, you bring up a good point here, though, Chris, is that, the weather has a lot to do with activity-wise. And so for our household, we have 3 kids with 3 different personalities. And for example, for my son, he wants to play competitive hockey this coming season. So for he and I, it's been trying to coordinate times to be at the ice rink and working on some skills. And then for the girls, it's the youngest, Becca, she still has gymnastics. So this time of year, it's still all hands on deck because we still have kids that are in sports. And then the oldest, Betsy, she is in a couple of weeks here graduating high school, and she's on to college. So coming this summer, she'll be finding a job to help pay for some schooling. And so for us here in our family, it's not just finding activities to do, it's finding the time for all of us to circle around and be a family versus having 3 kids. And me, I travel for work, so you're talking about mowing the yard. As soon as I come back home next weekend, hopefully the weather's going to be nice where I have that time to mow the yard, but at the same time, it's a weekend I have Connor, so I have to really be due diligent as far as getting stuff done and getting, not only yard work done, but spend quality time with him. So it's not just spring. It's as parents, as we all know, as dads, it's an all-year event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in my neighborhood, I started up a community garden, and so I've been trying to get everything prepped for that. And I forced the kids to help me, but and at first they're all kicking like, this doesn't sound like fun. But once we got into it, once we got the burn pile with all the brush that we dug up going, and they got to throw stuff in the fire, then they started having fun with it. But I just made them join me in a lot of that yard work stuff, raking the leaves, and because I had leaves from the fall that I had never raked. They got covered by snow, and so then when all that snow melted, it's like, oh man, I still have to take care of those leaves, or else my grass is going to be dead. So I made a family project out of that, getting outside. But I thought that was nice that, yeah, it's still chores. I remember being a kid griping and being all ticked off that I have to do yard work and stuff, but it's still, looking back, it was still nice spending the time with the family. So I kind of carry on that tradition a little bit in my torturing ways.
Well, I think it's just how you reframe it, right?
Right. Yeah, right.
You build a little fun into it. It could be a family activity, and families do both the fun things and the things that have to get done. How do you frame it? And maybe this is I'm a big fan of family meetings, but maybe this is a good opportunity for a family meeting. All right, here's a list of things we've got to do. The hours have changed. We don't have daylight isn't it's not a problem anymore. When it's dark out, we all kind of want to be in, but now it's not dark till 8 or 8:30. There just has to be this reshuffling of how we're going to do life now. And to me, what better way than putting everybody all in one place and saying, let's talk about it. Let's figure out what goes where and who's going to do what.
Yeah, that's really a beautiful thought. Eric?
Well, it's really interesting on my end because I've been transitioning kind of different household environments almost on a weekly basis this past year, moving from a 5-bedroom house into a camper parked inside of a barn. And almost overnight in Ithaca, it went from what we say like snow to mow, and basically, and now all of a sudden, living in a camper is sexy and cool again, and like everyone's like jealous, because I live on one that has like 2 waterfalls on it, and like how cool is that now that we survived the most frigid winter on record. So with what Thomas shared, like I am like in this new energy, and I'm acting like there's a full moon all the time, and my energy is kind of like through the roof, and I feel like there's a little interesting contrast with my kids because I'm, for these past few days I've been house sitting in a place that has both like indoor plumbing and internet, Wi-Fi, and like it's, my kids are just like soaking up the bandwidth while they can, even though it's like pushing 90 degrees outside, and they're still, just wanting to get every last bit of Netflix time or whatever. And so who knows? Like tonight it's going to be 90 degrees, and we have a Friday night tradition of going bowling, and I don't know if that's going to hold up compared to like strapping on a bathing suit and exploring a waterfall. So, but it's a real interesting time because it was literally overnight where it went from like 30 or 20 to 70. And I haven't heard threats of snow recently, but who knows? So yeah, I mean, I guess there's a lawn bowling, so maybe that that could happen. Who knows? So
very cool. And it's true. Like that brings up an interesting point. Is like how you can create different activities while you're out and about, right? So even in the wintertime, it's easy to stick to these traditions because it's like, what else is there to do? But once it starts getting nice out, you have all these options that pop up. It's like, man, we can go to a drive-in. We could do water bowling or lawn bowling. Right? So.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges, though, is particularly for kids today who, during those colder months, they get involved in their interior activities. They get involved in games that they like, and they do stuff on screens, and to motivate them to get outside. So Jay, you were talking about framing something in a certain way. So I'm interested in talking about how do we get kids past the hump of, oh, let's go do this. Nah, I don't want to do that. Or maybe later, or not today, or whatever. Because what I find with my own kids is once we actually do the activity, they have a great time. They really enjoy it. Dad, can we do that again? We love this, whatever. But that initial, like, trying to get them to get dressed, get up, motivate, go out and do something. Sometimes, they just want to hang around the house and do their own thing. So maybe we could talk a little bit about, how do we get kids over that hump and out into being more active?
Well, maybe the big answer to that is that, it's a great time for parents to be more active too, and that what we really need to do is model the behavior. Go out and play while I sit here and read the paper. It's a little harder to really support.
Right.
But if we start with let's do something, let's go for a hike, or let's find one of these games, bocce, or one of the other games that. So we had family all together over the weekend, and one of the things that kept them together was a series of outdoor games that we did. Just the beanbag toss and a washer toss and this full-size Jenga game, that's 6 feet tall. So picture the little ones. So this one, each one was a block of 2x4 that was cut, must have been 8 inches. So it was 5 feet tall. So if you want everybody to get outside, do something worthy of being outside, and maybe that just is. So what's the best idea we can do today? Again, back to family meeting, or okay, parents, just own it. What are we doing? Let's come out here and maybe mowing, but like Chris, like you said, if at the end of this we're going to do a little bonfire, then all of a sudden this isn't such a normal, regular chore. There's always something special in it, and I think we could set that up so that it goes that way. That there's always something special in everything that you do.
Yeah, and at the end they get s'mores.
Yeah,
Right.
That's always a good reward for kids.
Always a good reward.
S'mores! So, well, yeah, one of the habits so my neighborhood, we have a pool, and one of the habits I noticed my son got into last summer was he's like, man, it's so hot out. I'm like, go down to the pool, go down to the pool. He didn't want to go down to the pool. He wanted to stay and watch TV, plays video games and stuff like that. Then at the end of the summer, he's like, man, I didn't get to go down to the pool hardly at all this summer. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's because you sat in your room and you played video games all dang summer. So this year, it's like, okay, no video games. Is at 3 o'clock. You guys are outside. Period. That's it. My neighborhood has lots of kids. You got to go out there and live
Mm-hmm.
instead of living this online presence. And even my daughter, who's she doesn't play like I don't know. There's still video games, but on the iPad, these little coloring and number games that she has. Like it's good education-wise, but she gets so drawn into it. She'll sit there all day and play those games. And it's definitely, like Thomas, you were saying, a transition from, that indoor life to say, okay, we got to start going outside now. There's other opportunities now that we didn't quite have when it was negative degrees outside.
Right.
So, and one of the reasons that I wanted to put together the community garden in the first place was to add another thing for another activity for people in the neighborhood to do, so that we could have things to bring my community together. So we have the neighborhood pool, and that's great, but that's mostly the kids. And so I was trying to think of something to get the adults going, and that's where the garden came up as a great way to get the adults interested in something. So maybe there's some other things that we can do to kind of create more adult, maybe a dad event or something where the dads get together to play a game of softball or something like that. I don't know, but you guys have any thoughts on something like that?
Well, I guess there's two things. One is part of the Game Changer movement is excited about this transition. This snow to mow, because we're intentionally inspiring parents to spend 2 more hours with their kids. And I think Jay is totally right. Just telling our kids to go out and play while we're reading the paper is no longer flying. Like, it's totally how we model our behavior rather than how we, do as I do and not as I do as I say anymore. So, so with that being said, we're just trying to spend 2 more hours with their kids and report back the creative things that they do. On the flip side, I took my kids 3 weeks ago to a house raising, and I mean kind of like mission style, like where everyone got together and helped create the structure for a friend of mine who was building a straw bale house, and my kids lit up. I mean, it was like they were, there were some tools that looked like, tools straight out of Thor, and so I posted this picture of my 12-year-old son with this like big kind of wooden mallet hammer, and like just with this sense of pride, like I held this hammer up high, and tomorrow we're actually going to a camp raising. There's kind of a designer camping experience being built at a local resort and spa. And they're asking for the community together and just literally build this campsite, in one day. And so I feel like there are these really awesome community options that are starting to form, like community gardens and all these other postings, that I didn't even know to look for 2 years ago. But now I feel, because of your guys' influence, I feel like I'm starting to look for these community engagement opportunities. So I'm really excited for what the future of motherhood looks like because of getting together on a weekly basis with you guys, because I feel like we challenge each other to just to get off the couch, and to really transform this time and to speak from empathy around it, because it's not easy to go from wondering if you're gonna stay warm to like, holy cow, it's 80 degrees out, what do we do? So yeah, good stuff.
So to that, do you think could I post a challenge to you guys that if I get this episode up on the website, that we can go in and add different resources in our particular areas for dads or activities for dads that they can do. So
Mhm.
if you're in like the Fort Lauderdale area or the Denver area, or you're in Ithaca area, Toledo, Ohio, and then who am I missing? Thomas, Maine,
Westport, Connecticut.
Westport, Connecticut. Ah man, I always
It's
screw
near
that up.
Maine.
Yeah, it's in that side of the country, in the corner.
They got lobster there.
We do have lobster, but Maine is like 8 hours away. So
Connecticut. I'll have to remember Connecticut. So if you're in any of those areas, if there's stuff that you guys are involved in or activities that you know about that, we could get together with, different people that watch the show or listen or are fans of, that would be really cool. So, with that, I don't really... what kind of sparked this for me was the fact that the weather was starting to break. I was seeing a lot more people outside walking and doing different activities, and thought I just wanted to kind of discuss that, like what it is, what are some traditions that you guys do at this changing of the year. So if you have something that you want to bring up, feel free to share. Tommy?
So Chris, you know me, I always have a process for everything. My brain is always creating the steps. So, sorry, I'm apologizing before I go ahead and give you some steps.
I say step into your steps.
There we go.
Own it.
Thank you for the coaching. What if that, what if we take a look at the summer as just another period of a big part of life that we go at it with intention. That we say in every season we do a couple of things as a family. I'm just throwing it out as ideas. That we always have an adventure, right. That we always pay attention to service, because we're always here for others as well, and that we spend more time on experiences than stuff. And so what could the adventure be that we do now that the weather is better versus what adventure would we have when the weather's not good? But we always have an adventure. Then, and I'm not saying these are weekly, but maybe there's something for the summer that you have to gear up for, that, there's a camp you're going to go to, but it's going to have hiking, and, nobody's just coming from the winter, and nobody's really in shape yet. So we have 3 or 4 weeks of the family trying to do some things together so we can go to the camp and not embarrass ourselves and playing volleyball or whatever else is going on in camp. I don't know, but just, is there an adventure? Because I don't hear kids use that word. And I wondered if we could inspire them to look into their world to find and create adventures. So that was one. Second, the same with service. I don't hear them use the word service very often either. How could, what we offer in a period, the summer, the fall, or all summer, the first half of the year, the second half of the year, that we take on a service project. And in the summer we do an outside one, in the winter we do an inside one. But it's built into our DNA as a family that we always build adventures and we always provide service. And I'm kind of listening back to that. I'm hearing my dad's voice in some of this. And he wasn't so much about the adventure, but he was all about the service. Who have you helped and why? How is the world a better place because of you? And I know that maybe it's more, but that's what plays a little bit in my head. And the third...
that kind of speaks to what Eric was talking about too, with this house raising that they had and this campsite that they're building. I'm sorry, Jay, go on.
No, and I wonder if the parents' role, if our dad role is to say, let's have an adventure, what do you think we should do? And we're a family that's committed to service, what's a service event we should do, is a very different one than here's what we're doing. And I get that maybe the neighbor, older person needs their yard mowed every week. Okay, fine, I'll tell the kids to go do that. But how do we let them have a voice in these things? And I guess the overlying or the overarching thing in this whole thing is that how are we making life experiential for them? One of the things I find is, as a professor of college kids, is they don't have very many experiences. That they seem to be light on experiences. Yep. And that means they have fewer choices because their world isn't that big because they haven't experienced very much. So I wondered if, I hear of families all the time who go off to this place and do this and do, house raisings and other things like that, that that it seems to then show up when the kids talk in class about the things that they did. They did it as a family, or they know what service means, or they're always living adventures, and their worldview gets big. I think that here's yet one more opportunity for a dad to do what it takes to help the kids' view of the world get bigger.
That's beautiful.
That's a great point, Jay. To expand their horizons, to let them know about all of the possibilities that are out there, to let them explore, get them to a museum, a discovery center, some kind of place that's going to open their eyes about things, or even if it's just going out in nature and learning, that the trees have names and the plants have names and all the kinds of things, and then that can take you into science and botany and the whole, and to see what they're interested in. Because I know you talk also, Jay, about, there you have the multiplicity of doors. Some doors are closed because the kids just aren't interested in that, but others need to be open. So, if you go out on a hike and whatever, kid can't care less. It's green. It's a plant. I don't care what it's called. Then maybe botany and learning the Latin names of things isn't going to be your thing. But if they light up with that, they're like, oh my God, that's Lavandula angustifolia. That's the fancy name for lavender. Then maybe you have a scientist.
Good point. Yeah, exposing your kids to new, fun, different things that. Well, maybe they don't find fun, but
right. Just don't expose them to poison ivy on the hike. They don't need that.
Right. Let's see how your skin reacts to this.
But Tom, I think you bring up a really good point. Is that part of it in the orchestrating of these events is part of our responsibility, I think, as dads. To introduce them to some of the things that are out in the world to see what does in fact light up, because if we don't do that, then they don't know that there's something that's there for them, that they'll go through life and miss it. I would hate for them to miss it.
Right. And
how do you know? Well, you just kind of throw them into all these things. Try the sports, try the camp, try the thing. And I know it's a fine line between over-occupying our kids, but if we did it on a smaller scale and owned it ourselves instead of always trying to make sure that we pay for someone to go to the camp where all of this happens, then we miss it. We're not watching the experience. So let's go to the camp, or let's create our own camp. Let's pitch a tent in the summer and watch for fireflies and all the things that that for some reason seem to work themselves onto a kid's college essay. This is the one moment where my family connected and I was and it was about fireflies in February, or okay, I'm making it up because I was trying to alliterate here, but that there's some event that we minimize because mowing the lawn with Dad, or ours was stamp collecting. Okay, it wasn't a summer thing, but we all had stamp collections, and now I can spot a stamp a mile away and say I know where that's from, and I remember a little bit of history. Yeah, that's totally nerdy. I get that, but we had just a huge fun time doing that as a family. So there'll be other things, and that's okay. Be a nerd if that's who you are.
Well, that brings up a really good point, because I have this neighborhood. We have a community section that's with the pool. We have a yard. We have kickball or a baseball diamond and all that. So it's like that, bringing up that whole camping thing. That could be a really fun activity. Just bring all the parents down and with the kids and have like a camp out. Down at the baseball diamonds. That brings all kinds of ideas to mind of some things that I could create within my community. So this has been really good, giving me some ideas of ways to, interact with those that around me. Because I think that's where it starts, right? Is with your community. It starts in your home and with your own family, but then it's about, stepping into greatness is about, expanding that into your community, right?
Right.
So, Tommy, did you have something that you wanted to speak on?
Well, just a couple things. I forgot my original point, but a couple of things that what Jay was talking about, I was writing them down. Adventures. One of the things I was exploring, I think it was last year, is what is the age that kids can be part of Habitat for Humanity. And, they do have an age limit. However, the great thing is they can, even if they're young kids, they can still do something. They don't have to be picking up power tools, which I don't even want to touch a power tool, but kids can be in their painting, they can do other things. And I think, back to, to Thomas's point and Jay's point and Eric's point and Chris, I think that's where maybe at times we, and I hate to use the word fail, but maybe we are failing our kids because we are not doing enough of service. And it's something that Eric and I were talking earlier today, and that is, taking 2 extra hours to spend with our kids. Get them off the couch, get them off of, not just video games, but TV or what have you. And you were talking at the beginning, Thomas, about someone forcing them. A quick story is that last month, my wife, who's part of the local Kiwanis group here, they had an event on a Saturday. My son kept asking me during the week, "Hey, what are we doing? What are we doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know yet." Well, I Jedi mind tricked him and said, "Oh, by the way, you and Ann are going to be spending the day in service at one of her Kiwanis events." He's like, "Oh," and at first I could tell he was like, I got tricked. But once he gets there, once he is part of it, he loves it. He loves, helping others. And my wife came home and she said he was great. I mean, another one was there was the what's it called? I think it's called Race for Life, where it's like a 24-hour event. And I told my wife, I said, well, I'm going to go with you. And what it was, we were selling coffee at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And my son said, I want to come with. I go, dude, you got to be up at 1 o'clock for this. He goes, I want to go. And so there are times where, yeah, he's got to go kicking and screaming. But once he gets there, he enjoys it. And, I think that maybe we do. Maybe we do have to force them. But I think once they get there, then, to use your word, Jay, it is an adventure, and they can tell their friends. And maybe that experience that we're forcing them to do does go on a college application. And that's the one thing I'll leave with this. That's the thing that I asked my son. I said, "What did you learn?" And that's exactly what he said, Jay, was that this is stuff I can use on a college application. So maybe there are times where we do have to force the kids to understand to be in service, but think about the residual outcome that's going to help them down the road.
I think a big part of it, Thomas, and Tom, you mentioned it too, is that you just created another opportunity for discussion. So everybody says that our kids don't talk to us. Well, they don't talk to us because we don't ask them. Mm-hmm. So, here's a perfect opportunity to say, so what did you think about that? What did you learn from that? Do you want to do more of this? Do you want to do less of this? It's the ability, to have a perspective, own your voice, and that someone thinks it matters. I think these are huge opportunities, and I know we're talking about doing this in summer, but I think there's some things we could learn here that would be helpful for us all year long in just guiding our kids a little differently. If we just get out of the routine things of what we think we're supposed to do as dads and be open to trying some new things, check in on the results of these new things, and if they work, do them. If they don't, invent something else. But are we creating adventure? Are we creating experiences? And are we creating dialogue? At the end of this, do we know these people better because of what we did?
Right. I think another way to frame it, and one of you was talking about, or Chris, I think, going to the pool, and things like that. I remember when my sons were younger, and summer would come, and the town pool would open, and the beach and everything, and having them part-time, I would start to think in April or May, well, I'm going to have like 6 summer weekends with them or something, because you got about 12 weeks of summer. So if you have them every other weekend, you have 6 weekends when you can actually go out and do fun stuff with your kids. And thinking, I don't want to get to the end of the summer and say, we never went to the beach, we never did this, we never did that. You know, I want to get there. I want to have these experiences with the kids. So it does come back to parenting with intention, to getting up on that Saturday morning and motivating them and saying, you know, all right, we're going to the beach, you know, and then once you get them up and drag them there, you know, and they start to have a good time when they go to the snack bar or whatever it is. But to create those memories and to be able to then say at the end of the summer, well, gosh, you know, we got there 3 weekends out of 6 or whatever it was, rather than getting to the end of that time period, particularly if you have limited parenting time, and saying, you know, I meant to, but I just never got there.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, and I feel like there's also a really interesting other reframing opportunity here, which is the idea of being and doing. You know, because I mean, it's just interesting because I've been transitioning into just more what does it mean to just be with my kids and to love them wherever they are and meet them wherever they are. But then, you know, on the flip side, you can't help but do once they know who you are. Like, I mean, like going to that house raising was, and what was so cool, and I feel like, you know, Chris, like you talked about community things, is that they didn't feel like service, like they were building community. And I not that I felt like I tricked them into doing service, but I feel like there's something that's transcending from the word service to the word community, and it doesn't even feel like charity when we show up in community to build a house, even though it's a tremendous service. So I feel like in a way, you know, like I don't know if like my kids would just jump out of bed and say, let's go build community. But on the flip side, I feel like, you know, I can now get them to the camp raising because they know that the house raising was that much fun. So they now have a, you know, a bookmark of like what that experience was like. And so, you know, above and beyond writing college essays, which I agree I think is important, you know, we get to experience our kids in a whole new way too, and I think what I want to sell us all on is the opportunity to get to know our kids more, you know, in these 2 hours, and that we can never get back. Whether or not they use that on the essay, we're going to get off the couch too, you know, and that part is going to be great for our family health. And I mean, I guess the other memory that I'm going to bring up is that I was just this crazy entrepreneur as a kid. You know, when it was a winter, I was shoveling snow and making money. And when it was summer, I was figuring out whose lawn to mow and make money. And I don't know if too many kids are looking that way, you know, anymore. And some of it is because, you know, I look at my kids and they have dance competitions every other weekend, so like I don't know if they're going to get a regular lawn mowing clientele, even though my 14-year-old just got her working papers, whatever that means. So, you know, it's a really interesting time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's I really love, you know, the point of, you know, just spending that time with your kids and connecting and being open. Like, I've got a son that's 14, he's a teenager, he's kind of quirky, but he's kind of figuring out who he is, and being able to have those open conversations with him and be kind of almost like friends, but yet not, because there's still that respect of, you know, I'm your dad, and he's not going to quite open up 100% everything to me, but he definitely feels comfortable, you know, to a certain degree. So I like that, and it's interesting to watch him kind of develop and learn, and taking him to these places like you were talking about, Eric, with taking him to this house raising and it not feeling like charity, and having that. So I had a discussion with my son about this food pantry that we volunteer at, and he's like, I had a lot of fun. What you do is you take a bag of food with in a grocery cart, and you take it out to the person's car and you load it up in their car for them. So that's what he was doing, and he had a ton of fun pushing the cart around, for one, but talking to the people on the way out to the car. He just naturally just had these conversations, and he said it didn't feel like work at all. He'd love to do it anytime. So, but he wouldn't have known that if I wouldn't have taken him and said, "Come on, you're coming with me." When he didn't want to go, he wanted to stay at home and play his video games in the morning and relax and all that. But pushing him to get out and try something new. And so I think that's kind of the challenge that we're putting forth to the dads out there, is to find something new and creative that you can get involved with that can challenge you and your kids to step out of your comfortable zone, challenge yourselves to do something new, to help out in your community in different ways. And I think you've learned a few different ways here today in our little discussion. So, yeah, does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to it?
I had one more thing I wanted to add, and I think it was, I can't remember which of you guys said it, but it made me think that I think we've all talked about it a little bit, about intentional parenting. And intentional parenting requires us, to create some time in our own day to think about being a parent, and that's having a plan. That we take some time to, we take some time to plan. Ideally, we're taking some time to plan our day, so the things that need to happen. Why is it we don't plan, or why is it that I don't? So I'm talking about me, and I'll throw it out to everybody. Do I spend the same or some kind of important time planning how the events of my day as it relates to the family should be? How much time, when do I call? My kids are all away, so it's different now, but how do I not let the day get filled up with things that are not things that I would have done with the kids? Where's my own adventure for today? Where's my own service today? Where's my own experiences today? Mm-hmm. We didn't do this for them. We did it for everybody. And in that, they learned and we learned. And could we then develop our own habit that even when the kids are grown up, and so mine are in their late 20s, so I don't have, the projects around the house unless I go to their house. Then I make projects. But how can I learn that my day should be filled with adventure, experiences, and service as well? And if I teach it well to my kids, then maybe I'll be smart enough to learn it too. Maybe.
And I couldn't agree more with, just, it's such a huge part of our lives that we want to feel a sense of accomplishment, at the end of this. I mean, there is no end to it, but this category called fatherhood, and how cool would it be if we had the same thoughts or the same kind of energy to our parenting life as we do to our professional life. And I feel like that's a whole episode of this show, is just how do, and I guess I also want to speak to the blended family part and the new to single fatherhood part, because I'm just feeling this summer just feels totally different than other summers, because for some reason the pressure I put on myself just to serve the kids a balanced meal or get them to their dance rehearsal on time, all these different things, they were such big things in years that came before, but for some reason this year I'm just more about what does it mean to just be with the kids and to sort of really fully transition from the have to the get to the world, and I look forward every Wednesday afternoon, few days, and that's awesome. And so I do put some intentionality in just getting ready for that, and breathing enough, getting enough done so that I don't, that I can be 100% present with her, and all these different things that I feel were. And I guess I just want to put it out there in a kind of a softer way, is I feel more powerful, more in my power this summer than I have as a single parent in other summers. So, and I don't know if any of you all feel that, and maybe it's because it's so hot out, or that I'm excited about these 2 waterfalls that we get to explore this year. But what is it about this process? And I mean, how many years did it take you guys? Because I just want to, put it out there, because I feel like we're all on different points of the spectrum of what it means to be intentional about fatherhood, and where we are in our relationship transition above and beyond, what this particular summer looks like, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, kind of to your point, Eric, this summer for me has been transformational, because this will be. Last summer, I had left my job at the nuclear power plant, the automotive plant, right? My stepdad works at a nuclear power plant. I don't know where that came from, but yeah. So I left the automotive industry and went off on my own. And this is the first summer that I actually have like an income coming in of my own design, and like living that life of like truly by my own design. And so being able to, I don't know, grow into that is really neat, especially when there's so many fun things to go do right now, that it's because of the weather and everything, and that dedication that as an entrepreneur that you have to put forth to say, okay, no, I can't go to Cedar Point next weekend, I have to work. Cedar Point, for those of you that don't live in this area, is the best amusement park in the world. Lots of thrill roller coasters. So yeah, this is a new change for me in dealing with that. So I feel you on that, Eric, where you're coming from. So I do love that phrase, parenting with intention. That's cool. That's similar to, Jay's got a course that I'm learning now that he teaches called Present Parenting. And so it's about being, aware as a parent of your choices and the opportunities that present themselves to you in each moment. So if we can move forward with that amount of presence and create that intention in our parenting, I think we're on a good path. So if anybody else has got anything to say, otherwise I'm going to close off the show today. I hope that our chat helped, and if you have any questions, please feel free to comment below, and we can keep this conversation going in a blog type format. So thank you, and we'll see you again next week.